Late night host Bill Maher and MS Now's Joe Scarborough got into a heated argument while discussing Representative Ilhan Omar on Maher's show.
This follows comments from President Trump where he ripped Omar for being too critical of America and suggested she may have staged last week's incident where she was sprayed with vinegar by a man in the middle of her town hall. Maher denounced President Trump's criticisms of Omar along those lines, but he did say he at least partially agreed with the president that the Congresswoman seems to only have negative things to say about America. Let's watch.
There is a kernel of truth in that somebody comes from a country like Somalia, and then it just seems like she does not have any perspective on the country that she joined here, and never seems to have anything good to say.
We don't think that way
about America.
The second she came here,
she's allowed.
My family's probably been here for 400 years. The day she came to America and raised her hand and took the oath, she's every bit as much of an American as you are, or me.
And I would say this of every other American. Have some perspective.
Maher continued, pressing his point about Omar's perspective on the U.S.
What I'm saying is, have some perspective about this country, not just her, but yes, I mean, if she's from a country like Somalia, which is a country you wouldn't live in.
Right.
Okay, well, just be honest about it. Instead of, it just seems like it's always completely negative about this country.
Scarborough then flipped the argument around, claiming that Republicans have spent too much time complaining about the state of the country, especially back when Joe Biden was the president. That led to this exchange with former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Donald Trump talks about how the American dream is dead. No, it's not. That's the American dream's not dead. We're stronger militarily. We're stronger economically. We're stronger culturally. We're stronger with soft power. We're stronger in every single way.
I don't know about that. Ask Gen Z.
Yeah.
They're not feeling so good.
But I don't see. Okay, so now you're talking badly about America. How dare you do that? I think it's a great country.
No, I said ask Gen Z.
Well, would Gen Z rather live in America or Somalia?
I'm just saying the American dream is harder to realize.
I really like this back and forth.
It was an interesting discussion. I mean, I agree with Bill Maher. I think he wasn't saying that Ilhan Omar has no right to criticize the country. Like Scarborough's correct that she enjoys First Amendment rights, and that's fine. And you should not feel unwilling to criticize the country. I think there's a subtle difference, but an important difference between criticizing the country or like America as an idea and just criticizing the government of America. I'm very critical of America's government, whether Democrats or Republicans are in charge. I'm very critical of big government and the things our government does. That's different than criticizing America, the people, the idea, the philosophy behind it, which is great and good and should lead the world. That's different than the government. And, you know, I guess I don't parse every single comment Ilhan Omar has ever made. Right. Sometimes her criticism does evince this is a very kind of woke or identity-based criticisms of America as a nation rather than just criticism of the government. So I share Bill Maher's, this is what rubs me the wrong way about her, but no, she can say whatever she wants.
So America, to me, that's like a cop-out, what you just said, because America is a government, America is a place that's run by government, by leadership. So when you criticize the history of the country, you're never criticizing like the land that we're standing on. You're criticizing the policies that were put in place by the people historically that you continue to push forward as we get older as a country and how we can do better. And she's allowed to criticize the government and leadership and the way that our federal laws have been implemented and how we can do better. So but it's not like she's the nation. No, the nation was built up by leaders that she disagrees with. Sometimes she can call historically like, hey, this was racist. That's why we had civil rights. Let's move forward, move on and change
Okay, but then
laws.
that does make me go, but Somalia is a failed state and has been one for hundreds of years. And
that's why she lives in America now. But when she's here,
why did she talk about how bad Somalia is? See, I agree. It makes me okay.
Mind you, I haven't combed through all her statements. Yeah. Perhaps she has, but the president likes to have this collective punishment idea, which I constantly hear Ilhan Omar pushing back against, is the fact that if a Somalian in Minnesota did something wrong, we should indict the entire community of Somalians in the entire country. And so she's constantly pushing back on the statements that the president makes that wants to collectively punish all people descending from one country. And I think that is wildly inappropriate. And so if she seems like she's criticizing when the president Trump has been in leadership for 8 years. I mean, he's going on a second term, so it'll be 8 years when it's all said and done. I mean, 8 years of her leadership has been under somebody who doesn't look at her country as legitimate. He says S-hole countries about Haiti. He looks at her and says filthy, disgusting, dirty Somali. We heard him say that. So when he looks at her country and where she's from like that, of course she's going to criticize that and also say, I'm an American, but you need to have some kind of empathy and open-mindedness about how you enforce immigration, because now you're punishing an entire country based on the actions of a select few.
Yeah, I would just, if I was her, I would evince some appreciation for all of the rights and entitlements that one has as an American.
Has she never done that, though? That's what Bill Maher's like overstating.
I never parsed all
That's
of
what I'm saying. It's an easy
know.
jab at somebody who you see is heavily critical of President Trump, but you see that President Trump is heavily critical of the same people also. Marjorie Taylor Greene is extremely critical of lawmakers, specifically in Congress, constantly in the last few months, coming at she says they're all pawns of President Trump and how they're failed.
Again,
so and she's not
the
happy.
government.
So she's not happy
She's
to
not
live
out
in America.
here saying
She said
America
we're failing.
is a broken, racist, bad, colonialist.
So if she
place.
doesn't, she might not be using the word racist, but she said we're broken. We're failing Gen Z. She says that we're failing on health care.
Not we,
So
the government.
exactly. So if
By having policies that favor seniors at the expense of young people. That's what she's getting at.
and if Ilhan Omar
And I agree with
hey,
her.
we have policies that favor migrants that are from places where people look like they're white, and we look at black countries and we call them S-hole, and we say
we wanna favor
disgusting and
migration from
filthy,
places that
and
are
we look
high
at people that
income
have
and high-
that are study Islam, which is a beautiful culture, and say that they're bad. That's like, why is Islam bad? Like, people actually who study the Islamic faith are not criminals and killers. Like, that's what we don't understand. And we overanalyze. We indict an entire community of people looking into one ideal or looking into one location and say you're all bad, and that's where America has it wrong. I mean, I've literally spent time, because I have a travel show in UAE, and understood the Muslim culture, understood Islam, and spent time understanding this. And these people are some of the most peaceful people that I know. And the fact that we indict, and I know we're going on a different tangent, but it's just differences from what America sees as normal. And now we say that you're all bad, you're all criminals, and that's what we need to stop doing. So if she has to scream from the
There's
rooftop
a lot of straw
that
men
this
here.
is
I'm
not.
not saying they're all bad or they're all criminal or any of those things.
No, the president does, by saying things like filthy, disgusting, dirty, S-hole. Like, this is what he calls places like that.
Because their countries are not well run. Do you deny that? They have lower GDP, they have lower literacy rates, they have lower everything there. So we're being a little cautious about how much of the third world can enter this country at one time, because we don't want to import the values and the way civilization is structured there, because something we're doing was right and something they're doing was wrong. And we don't want it to become like, you must concede that. I mean, we're not taking unfair shots. These countries are worse places to live. I want them to become better places to live, which is why I favor trade and engagement with these countries that want to be pro-America and want to collaborate in business ventures and want to develop. They shouldn't be reliant on our aid forever, but there should be mutually beneficial economic arrangements that bring them along and that raise their GDP, that raise their standard of living, and then they have more democracy and they have more freedom of speech and they have more market capitalism and they have all the things that we want them to have, and we can benefit from their labor, and some level of immigration from their countries is fine, and I'm in support of it. More in support of it, I think, than most Republicans, but I'm in support of it. But we can't have, there is concerns about our values being overrun by the values of people, and I don't have anything against most peace-loving Muslim people either, or the people of any faith, but we're talking about, Europe is facing massive chain migration from the Middle East, from destabilized countries, partly destabilized because of wars we've had there that I was against, but there are concerns about importing terrorists and criminals who are disproportionately among their midst. That doesn't mean they're all terrorists and criminals and we should take none of them. It means we have to do a little bit of vetting. Is that wrong to do a little bit of vetting and say, are we making sure the people who are coming in here aren't people who want to destroy us and kill us? Yes. Like, that's what we're asking questions about. Because you talk about hate crime statistics and how, it's more white supremacist gangs. The number one extremist category in the U.S. is Islamic extremism because of 9/11. So
the president's direct response to the fraud happening in Minnesota, which was widespread after the pandemic, not just Minnesota and not just Somali people, was to shut down access to Somali people to immigrate into this country. This is not a proper
Because they're
response.
disproportionately. Why? I guess why is that not a disproportionate?
Because in Minnesota, which is the largest population of Somali people in our country in general, there was a widespread fraud. But across the country, if you look at fraud during the pandemic and afterwards, we can look at places like Ohio, we can look at other states, and fraud was rampant. So we should look at every single community then and say we're shutting down immigration everywhere, and not just look at Somalia and say, well, this country is the worst, the bad. You learned something bad from there, as opposed to them just being migrants that did something bad in the community because they saw an opportunity to take advantage, like everyone else, of the thousands of people that have been prosecuted after the pandemic that have taken advantage of our government. We didn't shut down access to every single person, every single place they immigrated from. We didn't look at how many migrants came from where.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Take this to its logical conclusion. Let's say we found out that the white supremacist violence, it's mostly prison gangs. Let's say that was all. It turned out those had been immigrants or recent immigrants from a particular region of Germany where there's some neo-Nazi or Argentina or wherever they all immigrated to, okay. And it turned out by a significant margin it's all from that country. Of course we should shut off immigration to that country.
No, I'm not indicting the whole country of Germany. I don't think that's the right way forward.
I think it's obvious that they would do that, and that would not be so wrong.
Well, to tie this all in a bow, I think that Bill Maher is overgeneralizing what Ilhan Omar does. I think she defends a place that she was born, but also by being a Congress member, you would think that most people are devoting their lives to pushing for things that they genuinely believe will make our country better. Whether you think Congress is effective or not, the fact that you go into a role like that, which is considered public service, I mean, she is committing her life to this country. And so the fact that you feel like she's always negative, well, she's equally as negative as Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you want to look at it like negative about the history versus negative about the right now, it's all about policies. Policies make our country what it is, and she's able to criticize them and shouldn't be condemned because she's overly critical of President Trump, who is extremely critical of pretty much everybody that doesn't agree with him.
All right. We've got a lot more to talk about on Rising. Stay with us.